The Death Star project was to be the crown jewel of Darth Sidious's empire, and for nearly 2 decades, the Empire pulled in massive amounts of resources in order to build the massive battle station, a battle station capable of destroying entire worlds. The Death Star was designed to be the ultimate symbol of rule for the Empire, and was designed to specifically dispel any rebel activity from arising. The goal of Sidious, Tarkin, and Krennic were to create a battle station of such a magnitude that no one would ever dare raise arms against it, with the Empire allotting massive resources as well as slave labor from worlds such as Kashyyyk. When word reached Darth Sidious that the Death Star had been destroyed, the Empire was dealt a massive blow. Not only was their battle station no more, but the Empire was now proven to be fallible. Before this ever occurred, however, there were 2 extremely high-ranking Imperial officers who held Palpatine's ear, who were staunchly against the Death Star. Individuals that may shock you, in that being Darth Vader and Grand Admiral Thrawn. Let's discuss Thrawn first. What's important about this is that in Star Wars canon, Thrawn was not actually led into the secret of the creation of the Death Star. As an alien, Palpatine respected Thrawn, but he did not allow him all of the secrets of the Empire instantly. However, the genius mind that was Grand Admiral Thrawn was able to deduce that the Empire was building a massive battle station that the galaxy had never seen before, being able to deduce this thanks to the massive amounts of slave labor, as well as hyperdrive engines and fuel being imported by the Empire daily. Thrawn would even voice his concerns about the Death Star to his subordinates, ones in which he ultimately trusted, stating that he believed that creating one massive weapon was a mistake, and rather that the Empire should seek to expand rather than leave all of its eggs in one basket. Believing while it made the Empire exceptionally powerful, it also made for a massive target. Thrawn believed that the Empire needed to expand its reaches, not consolidate them. Instead, Thrawn was of the belief that they needed to produce more Star Destroyers as well as naval capital ships, essentially creating the largest fleet that the galaxy had ever seen. Just a few weeks following this, Thrawn was granted a private audience with the Emperor, and although he lacked the specifics of the Death Star, such as the size and true power of the weapon, he warned Sidious about allocating all of their resources into one location. Thrawn then proposed the idea of creating an even larger naval fleet to the Emperor. However, in response, Darth Sidious promised that once the Death Star was fully operational, that they would no longer need a fleet as large as the Empire currently had, that the Death Star would serve as the ultimate sign of Imperial rule, dismissing Thrawn's concerns about the battle station. In the end, Thrawn would be proven absolutely correct, and this can even be seen in The Rise of Skywalker with Darth Sidious's change of plan. While it is true that the Star Destroyers in The Rise of Skywalker could also destroy planets, and Palpatine's plan is riddled with even more errors here that we won't get into, it is clear that by some extent, he took Thrawn's words to heart, instead opting to control a massive naval fleet rather than a single battle station, even though the First Order would try that again. If Thrawn had gotten his way, however, the victory of Luke Skywalker in the trench run in A New Hope would not have meant nearly as much. The rebels, even if they managed to destroy several capital ships, would still not make a dent in the Imperial Navy. Thrawn was absolutely right, and if the Emperor had embraced Thrawn in this moment, he would have destroyed the rebellion swiftly. But that answers why Grand Admiral Thrawn was against the creation of the Death Star. But what about that of Lord Vader? Vader realized how powerful such a superweapon truly was, the greatest superweapon to his knowledge that the galaxy had ever seen. Vader's issue was not so much with the battle station itself, but rather with the men that operated it, and the idea that they did not deserve the power that they wielded so freely. He believed that power like that must be earned and understood. Darth Vader went through massive lengths to achieve such a power in the dark side of the Force. He had sacrificed his wife, he had sacrificed his legs and his arms, his family, his code, anybody that he ever cared about. And these men that professed to want to rule the galaxy had sacrificed nothing. This had been given to them in the form of a massive machine. A killing machine. Vader had suffered, been molded, and these men were not worthy. Vader simply saw the Death Star as a means for lesser beings to grovel for power. Grovel for power in an empire that they did not own, and their arrogance and enthusiasm over such a battle station and such power infuriated the Dark Lord to no end. So despite all of this, why was Darth Sidious so enthusiastic about the Death Star and pushed for its completion as soon as possible? Well, contrary to the likes of Darth Vader, Darth Sidious had been taught a different sentiment. Very early on in his career as a Sith Lord, Darth Sidious had learned that the machinations of the Force could in some way rebel. When Plagueis and Sidious attempted to spread the dark side across the galaxy and cloud the vision of the Jedi, they also allowed the midichlorians to rebel against them and create the Chosen One that was prophesied to destroy them. His own master and Darth Plagueis had experienced this, and this was a lesson that Sidious would not soon forget. Therefore, Sidious pushed for the creation of a battle station of such a size to combat against anything that the Force could throw at him. He did not know from which corner of the galaxy a light side threat may arise, but he knew that one was coming, and instead of strictly falling back on his abilities of the Force, Darth Sidious needed something more. He needed something drastic, a battle station with the capabilities to destroy entire worlds. While it's true that the Death Star was meant to be a message, it was also meant to be a contingency plan. With the creation of the Death Star, Sidious believed that any rebellion that sprouted up in the depths of the galaxy could be snuffed out instantaneously, and he would finally have ultimate dominion over the galaxy. The Death Star was to represent the very fist of the Emperor. With a weapon as penultimate as the Death Star, Darth Sidious could do what he always wanted, to sit back in his throne and learn the secrets of the dark side, perhaps even perfect the dark side itself. The Death Star was enough to rule the galaxy as an iron fist. Palpatine already had the galaxy, and the Death Star was his security. This is where there is the major difference between Thrawn and Sidious. Sidious cared for himself ultimately in the end. He cared for his time and where his efforts were being devoted. Sidious had a passion for the dark side and for knowledge. Thrawn's goals, on the other hand, were to preserve the Empire at all costs. He put the Empire above himself and above his own ego. And that is why Grand Admiral Thrawn was correct. And that is why, if the Emperor had simply heeded the warnings of Thrawn, in time, he could have sat back and learned all the secrets that the dark side could ever offer him. But anyway, my friends and acolytes, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on why Thrawn and Darth Vader actively hated the Death Star, and why they were both staunchly against it? For very different reasons. As always, my friends, if you haven't yet, it would mean the world to me if you could reach out and force push that subscribe button. It is your destiny.